our coffee dates have really reminded me of the importance of female connection.
It's easy to like be on social or to like share a message, but then when it comes to like being vulnerable and being like, hey, do you want to be my friend? Like, is that easier for you now to share? Is that still like a little uncomfortable?
This is bigger than me. And if I really want to impact people in the way that I want to impact people, I have to share myself more. If you want the life that you cannot even imagine right now, but you just know it feels so juicy and delicious, then why would you play small and shrink and wait?
What is the logistics? Because I know you're going to get DMs about this. Welcome to the Iconic series. Today, I have a very special guest who has also turned into a very special new friend, Jess. And in this episode, she's going to share exactly her philosophies on life, on business, on really how to get to the point where you love your life so much and every day feels like play. So I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Thank you so much for being here today, Jess. I'm so excited to have you because I know that you don't do these very often. And I invited you to be a part of this because, one, I really feel like you just embody what it means to be iconic for not only yourself and your business, but also for your family. And in the short time I've gotten to know you, you have not only impressed me, but also just like made a difference with some of the things that you've shared with me. So I had to invite you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So before we get into like all of the things that I want to talk about, I would love it if you would just do kind of like the formal intro. Who are you? Who do you help? What do you do?
Okay.
Just like the background.
Yes. Well, I love that you referenced, my family values a little bit, which is one of the main reasons that I think we've connected, because the most important thing about me is how important my family, meaning my husband and my kids, are to me before anything else. So they're my number one priority. They're why I do what I do. So my first priority is to love my family so powerfully that all of our love ripples out into the world. And then as a secondary mission, or in alignment with that, I support women in business to really create a life that they love and make lots of money because they chose to put their life before their business.
We have a fun origin story, and I've shared this a couple times with clients because it is so not something I would have normally done. So we met in a mastermind,
Yes.
And I think I reached out to you when I found out you were in New York.
Yeah.
And the fun part of it was you ended up moving about 10 minutes away.
It was insane. I remember you reached out and you said, where are you in New York? And I said, well, we live in Queens and we just bought a house in RVC. And then you were like, well, that's where I live. So it was insane. And then you had suggested, I think, that we meet up. And I said to my husband, I was like, it's so interesting. Of all the people who are in our mastermind group all over the world, Nicole is 10 minutes away. And I wouldn't usually be inclined to go for coffee, but the synergies were just too, obvious to ignore. So we explored it, and I'm so glad that we did.
When I told my kids that I was meeting a new friend, they were like, what? Like, this is so outside of your comfort zone. But in this series, I've been talking a lot about just like following your intuition.
Yes.
And I know that's something you believe in too. And it was just like, I was actually putting myself out there because we were doing a CEO night out. So that kind of gave me the reason, like it gave me the guts almost to reach out to you because I wanted to invite you to this thing I was doing. And you couldn't go because you had a prior engagement. But I was like, why don't I just felt like this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to meet you for coffee. And it was just such the start of a nice, beautiful relationship and friendship that we've worked on growing. But it's not something that either you or it was out of our comfort zone.
100%. And I don't think another friendship or a new friend was something that either of us were looking for. And I know for me, I've learned a lot about myself just because you decided to reach out to me.
Yeah.
One thing that our coffee dates have really reminded me of is the importance of female connection and how much, our conversations really fill my cup.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing. The second thing, me coming to coffee with you, and you probably don't even know this, but one of the reasons that it was such a big deal for me was, makes me emotional to say, but last year I lost my best friend.
Oh.
And so I didn't really realize that it was going to take courage to even allow myself to make a new friend.
Yeah.
So for me, it was getting out of my comfort zone in so many ways.
Yeah.
And I think, as strong women who are leaders in the world, it can be hard to say those things out loud. And also one of the reasons that we need female friends in our lives. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And that's just like, that's so, I had no idea.
No.
Like, you never shared that. Thank you so much for sharing that, especially here. But I think it's almost like, it's not easy, but it's easy to like be on social or to like share a message. But then when it comes to like being vulnerable and being like, hey, do you want to be my friend? Like that is the thing. Like, I think at this point in my life, that actually takes so much more courage and vulnerability, just like reaching out to you, than doing anything when it comes to sales.
Yes.
But that, I think, that actually is like the growth that I'm looking for right now.
100%. And pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zones teaches us so much about ourselves. And one of the questions that I contemplate all the time is, when did it all get so serious? Because when we were kids back at school, it would have been nothing to be like, do you want to be my friend? Do you want to play? Like, all of the things. And then all of a sudden life gets serious. And as adults, we lose those childlike qualities that actually keep us in the presence, in the now, in the fun, in the joy, in the creativity of life. So, I love that.
So what are ways that you find that now? Because that's like, I am really trying to live that. And I think the mastermind we're in, like our mentor, Steph, she does a great job of just like encouraging that, like living your life.
Yes.
So what are ways, because I know you do a lot of travel, like with your husband, with your family, and what are other ways that you are kind of trying to make it more fun and unserious even?
Yeah. I mean, I live every single day in the now, because in the present moment, there's never any suffering. There's no worrying about what if this, happens, or what if this doesn't happen. And so staying in the now. And then real intentionality to have play as a principle. Ever since I met my husband, we have play as a principle. And actually, we have 5 kids. And the kids all say to us all the time, they're like, you two are such big children. And then we high five each other because we're like, this is amazing.
Yes, that's the point.
And, one of the ways recently that we discovered, we have a really great relationship, my husband and I. And, every relationship has its moments where you're a little frustrated with each other, or something occurs and you don't have as much patience as you might on another day. And one of the things that we learned recently was we can constantly create a new level in our relationship if we catch the feeling, and instead of making the feeling mean something, we ask ourselves, okay, how can I play with this? How can I toss what I'm feeling to you? And then you can toss something back, and we're in a game rather than in a frustration or, whatever is going on. How can we play and make this something brand new in our relationship?
That's so good. You're even just like blowing my mind of just like, I have really been like actively seeking out more fun, but even the difference from like fun to play, like it has a different energy and a different frequency to it. And the fact like your kids are also reflecting that back to you.
Yeah.
So on a daily basis, like what is that? I'm getting a little granular here because I'm curious, but like when you're not away, when you're home, like what does that look like when you're like trying to explore that?
Well, one thing that we do all the time, and the kids, what's important about this is the kids don't always willingly get into play. They roll their eyes, they look at us like, you guys are adults, what are you doing? And we also know through our play and them observing it that they're creating a foundation and a toolbox that they can tap into later. One of my favorite things that we've just recently taken on is, you can tell when someone's in a certain kind of mood, right? They'll make a face. Like, do you have a angry face?
Yeah, of course.
So make your angry face. I'm curious.
I don't even know. I mean, mine's probably more like just like straight faced almost.
Okay, like very serious.
Yeah.
Well, when we have Botox, it's hard to move our faces, right? And okay, so give me your straight face. We'll do a demo.
I mean,
right? And then
like
imagine that you're peeling the face off and you toss it to me, right?
Okay.
So like literally do it.
Yeah.
So make your straight face, peel it off, toss it to me. Now I'm going to put it on your face and I'm going to add something to it and I'm going to toss it back and then you're going to put it on, right? So I'm going to take your face and toss it back to you. And then you add something on, right? And you toss it back to me, right? And then I'm like, and this is a game, right? But how do you feel? You don't feel angry anymore. You're like, oh my God, I just witnessed my angry face. That was kind of funny. They made it something different. Now I don't feel angry because I was willing to participate in the game. So that's one example of play that we use on a daily basis.
I'm even thinking like, how often am I doing that? Even like when my kids get home, like not that, unless it's like maybe like it's almost like having scheduled, like it's the weekend, we have more time to play. But I even think about yesterday, you know, when my kids got home, I had to go to Olivia's basketball game, and then I came home and then it was dinner, and then I wanted to finish up one thing. Like it's just like like that. Instead of like, how can you, and that took 30 seconds. Like it's not that it takes that long, but I think it's so important to just bring that in and show even your kids that like that's part of life, and it's not just like this, almost like this segmented thing, because that's what you're making me and helping me realize is like, it doesn't have to be like, okay, the weekends are for play. And I think of it in terms of like almost like offloading or like putting on a show or reading a book, but not in terms of like that word.
Right. And what you'll notice, and you might have noticed it right now, is when you're in play, there's like an aliveness that runs through your body. And what happens is in day-to-day life, because life happens, I get it, you know, it's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about play and, you know, women being able to shout, F, I love my life and really mean it, is because when you're in the day-to-day life, you get into like habitual brain, logical brain, analytical brain, compartmentalizing, like you spoke about, like plays for the weekend or celebration is for when the day's done and all of those things. Whereas when you're in play, you're constantly creating. And so creating then doesn't become something that you switch on, it just becomes part of who you are. And then it collapses time and space around how quickly you get to your goals, because your energy is just aliveness and creativity. It also really teaches our kids that it's okay to feel. There's nothing wrong with our feelings. And even more importantly, this game is called Stuck Face. But what I like about it is we notice singular sensations before we collectively group them and call them a feeling, which we can then use as an excuse for not staying committed to the things that are important to us. So it slows everything down, keeps us creative, and actually we as a byproduct create the life we want quicker.
How did you get into this? Has this been like a long-term value? Where did this come from? Because like you said, it's so easy to be in the serious all of the time. And even I think, I know for me, when I started my business, I did it because I didn't want to be tied to the teaching, to the school, to the desk, to the kids, like to the 9 to 5. And when I started my business, it was fun, but it was still stressful. And I think along the way, in the past, I would say year, I've been exploring this idea of like bringing in more fun. I love the word play though to bring in. So is this like where did this come from?
Well, honestly, was like you. I was a high school, you were a middle school teacher. I was a elementary.
Yeah.
I was a high school teacher for 17 years. And, the reason I got into coaching and entrepreneurship was I noticed that the teachers who were educating the children in our school, and I've spoken about this publicly, and you can imagine a lot of people weren't very happy that I called it out, but the teachers in school were so uninspired and so lacking enjoyment in their life that I was like, if these adults aren't inspired, how are our next generation of children going to be inspired? And so I thought my responsibility here is to get out of the education system and transform the education system and support parents to be the greatest versions of themselves. Mm-hmm. So I started my business, and I had the big dream of freedom. I'll get to drop the kids at school. I'll have the whole day to myself. I get to choose my schedule. Like, I'm going to love it. And to begin with, I did. But then as success comes, we fall into this trap of it all gets so serious. Yep. And I was saying to my kids, and you see the memes on Instagram, and I'm saying to the kids, I'll be there soon. I just have a call. I have to go on a Zoom call. Oh, I have a call. And I was really upset with myself because that was the opposite of the reason that I started my business. So I thought, let me try on as an experiment, putting the people, the places, and the experiences that are really important to me before anything else. And what I experienced in this experiment was people then came to me and said, tell me more. Like, how do you have this life that really looks and feels like you're having the time of your life? And so success was a byproduct because all these people were watching me live my life, and they wanted to know how I managed to have such a great time and build a business. So as soon as I let go of this is the way it should be and chose to prioritize what was important, the success came. Mm-hmm. So, and then my commitment is to continually learn. And so, this weekend we were in LA. We went and did a program with Gay and Katie Hendricks. And, they're 81 years old.
Stop.
81 years old.
Still putting on events.
They only do like 2 a year. And they demonstrated all the way through what it looks like to just have the time of your life, sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and the impact that has on other people.
What I'm like really getting and what we have talked about so much, but is like, it's the fun and the enjoyment and the play is like the way through, as opposed to the seriousness. And it's like I don't know why or when it got so serious.
Yeah.
I think if there's one thing that the listeners can get from this, it's like, how can you make it a little more unserious and bring more of the play and the joy back? I know traveling is like a really big thing for you, and you travel a lot and you bring your family in. And one of the most impactful things that you shared with me when we were having a coffee date was how you almost like go about your family trips.
Yes.
And how you have different parts of your family trips. And this is also why it's so great to get outside of your comfort zone, because I had never even heard of anyone doing anything like this. So can you share how, when you travel with your family, like what you do?
Yeah. So like I said, we have 5 kids. They're between the ages of 15 and 27. And so once a year, we organize one big family trip. And our real purpose of the trip is that it's so good that they're going to want to come forever. And then the grandkids will come, and their husbands and wives will come, and all of the things. So there's 3 elements to our trips. And the first element is education. So wherever we're going to learn about the people and that place and the history and the culture. So one of our most recent trips, the one that I told you about, was to South Africa. So the first part of the trip, we went to Nelson Mandela's island where he was imprisoned. And we actually learned from one of the prisoners that was locked up with Nelson Mandela. And Thomas Moses is one of my favorite people I've ever met. He inspired me beyond anybody I've ever met. And the moment we met him, he said to me, he said, "What kind of tour would you like?" And I said, "I don't want a tour. I just want to hear your story." And he said, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to hear your story." So I was in tears the whole way through, and he said to me, he was like, "Please don't cry any more tears." He shared this story of one of the, what do you call them? The guards within the prison was really, really mean to him and would like hit him. And one day they used to work in the lime quarry during the day. So he was working in the lime quarry and the guard sicked the dog on him. And he was so scared that he ran and he jumped off a cliff and he broke his arm. And they didn't support him to get any, health care to heal. So his arm was still like this. And he said, I go to the market every Sunday and I see this guard every single Sunday. And he said, I say good morning to him. And not once has this guard ever replied to me. And I'm crying and crying because I can feel. Yeah. And he said, that's his suffering. He said, I forgave him a long time ago. Mm-hmm. He's the one who's suffering now. And he said that Mandela really taught him what forgiveness meant, which is why he could live so powerfully in life despite what happened. So the first part is education, and we really are committed to learning from people, not from books. So that's the first part. The second part is contribution. So when we were in South Africa, we went to a township called Langa Township, and we learned from one of the residents there called Siviwe. And one of the most interesting things about, the township and our idea to contribute was that I came in thinking, I know how I can help them. I can probably do something with education. We can probably provide, books or things like that. And what I learned about myself was, who am I to think that I know what they need help with when I can just ask them and they can tell me what's important. And the way that I learned that was, we were given a tour in Langa Township. There's 3 areas. There's the tin huts that you see on TV when they're trying to get fundraising money. There's then the area which is like the government buildings, like tenement buildings, projects you would call them here. And then there's this area called Beverly Hills, which is where people have become, footballers or bankers, but they stay in the township because they have a motto called, don't move out, move up. Move up. Because they said if you move out, the people in the township can't learn what's possible for them. If you move up, then you're modeling to them what's possible, which I thought was fascinating. But we were in the tin hut. It was fascinating. So it was, the size of this square of the floor right in front of us. And you would walk in the door, and on the right-hand side was a bunk bed. And the guy says to us, on the bottom, I sleep here with my 2 sons, and on the top, my wife sleeps with our 3 daughters. And then he said, this corner, this is our kitchen. There's a microwave, and, I think 2 plastic plates and some forks and knives, plasticware. In this corner was a laundry basket, and he was like, this is our utility room. And then in this corner, they had a little television, and he was like, and this is our living area. And he was so proud. The place was immaculate. And Siviwe said to us, why aren't you guys taking pictures? And I said to Siviwe, it just doesn't feel right to be taking pictures. And he said to me, you need to question that thought. I was like, what? He says, you need to question that thought. These people are some of the proudest people on earth, and they need you to go and share their story, because on television, they're being portrayed as something that they're not. These are not poor people. These are the wealthiest people in the world because wealth is character. And these are the kind of lessons that you cannot get from anything but traveling experiences. So first, education, second, contribution. The third part, we went on safari in a different part of South Africa, had the bougiest experience up close and personal with the animals. And, the kids had a great time laughing, connecting, eating, drinking, all of the things. But those are the three components.
How did you start to do that? Like, did you hear of it? Or you just came up with it?
It's just what's important to us. We have a mission on this planet to really love and serve people. And, it's not what we say that we do, it's actually what we do. So it just came from who we are and how we move in life.
That's so amazing. So can you share a little bit about your business and what you do? Because I know you have your I Love My Life. Like, tell us a little bit about that, because I feel like even the energy behind that is just so playful around what you do. And one of my most favorite things you do is I think this ties into like the play, but you're up in the clouds.
Oh, yeah.
when you do that. So can you talk to both those?
Yeah. So I have a membership. It's called the 5-Figure Months membership. And I Love My Life is one of the programs in it. It did used to be called the I Love My Life membership. And I am thinking about renaming it. It's funny. I'm really back into a lot of the things that I used to do. It's funny that we play with new ideas and then always return to what's important. So I Love My Life and the 5-Figure Months membership, the whole premise is exactly what we've talked about. When you build a life that you love and then a business that protects that life that you love, then you really do get to have it all. Because success for me is feeling joy and fulfillment, and the money comes as a byproduct. So we really reverse engineer what people are told out there, like hard work, hustle, one day when you've earned X amount of money, then you'll be able to X, Y, and Z. So I really challenge that, and we build the life first and the business afterwards. Something that I was really thinking about today, I read an article in Vogue Business magazine, and there's this whole new era of ghetto bossing. And ghetto bossing or soft life is what they're calling it as well. And I'm fascinated by it. And Vogue, the article was really talking about, we're leaving behind the hustle and sacrifice culture. Brilliant. I'm all for that. And we're replacing it with this like slowed down, it'll happen in its own time, do less mentality. And I realized there's something missing between those two things. Yeah. Because if you really want a big, I call it beyond the vision board life, if you want the life that you cannot even imagine right now, but you just know it feels so juicy and delicious, then why would you play small and shrink and wait? And for me, the missing piece for many people is building in alignment. So it's not about going fast. It's not about going slow. It's when you build in alignment, that's when you really get to have it all. So dream big, make the moves that are aligned with that, but build your life first and protect it so it feels good the whole way through. And then you're never going to experience burnout or blowout. So that's the philosophy behind the membership. Up in the Clouds offers, we travel a lot, and Up in the Clouds offer is every time I travel, I do a limited time offer. So it's only available while I'm literally up in the clouds. It's a completely secret offer. So I drop a price. It's only available for one person. And sometimes somebody snaps it up and sometimes they don't. But what's really important about the Up in the Clouds offer, aside from the fact that it's just so much fun, because it's someone who's not really in my world or isn't my one-on-one client, I never know who's going to buy it, and usually we do an in-person experience. What's so fun about it is that I started it to push myself out my comfort zone, because when you're early days in your business, you're often scared about pricing things high ticket, putting those prices out there. And I thought, how could this just be fun? How can I just throw a price out there, be completely unattached? And I think at the time, there wasn't really Wi-Fi on planes like there is now.
Yeah,
So I would drop it right before I got on the plane. I'd be up in the air with no idea whether someone had bought it or not. So I couldn't be attached. And then I would land and then they either had or they hadn't. And I remember the first time, I think I'd priced it at £2,997. And I landed and someone had bought it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I was on a plane having the time of my life, like, you know, and someone's paying me and they don't even know what they're paying me for. And so it just grew from there. It's so much fun. And
I know my people, and you're breaking their brains right now because they get really in their head when it comes from, well, what if they don't want it then? What if someone doesn't buy it? And it's the attachment and then almost like the problems that are going to come from it. So I love that you're just like, I'm up in the clouds. If someone buys it, they buy it. If they don't, they don't. And by the way, like, I love that you said sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I still have things. We did something a few weeks ago that no one bought. And I was like, okay,
yeah,
you have to learn to be okay with it. So I love that kind of like pushed you into being okay with it.
Yes. And I think it's so important. We get to examine and be playful with our fears or areas that we have resistance. And when we can be playful with those rather than judge them or judge ourselves for feeling a way, then we get into creativity to support releasing that thought or feeling. So that's where it came from. It was like, how can I play with this fear I have around pricing or this thing that I have around thinking I have to give people all the details before they're going to buy. So I thought, let me just create this thing where I'm naming a price that's out of my comfort zone, where I'm not giving any details, and let me see what happens. And then you build this like, wow, that was so much fun. And then you get to play with it, you know, in an even bigger way.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sometimes I price them crazy high prices. And then sometimes, because I like to play with my audience, I'll be like, okay, today's offer is not 50,000, it's 111.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, I know behind the scenes, they're racing to buy it first. And like, how much fun is that for everybody? So it gets
and again, it's the fun and the play of just like, I'm going to play with this and just see. But like the fun is in just putting it out there.
Right.
And then it's double the fun
100%.
later. So logistical, because I know, again, you're like breaking brains right now. When you land and you see someone's purchase and then you give them the offer, like what is the logistics? Because I know you're going to get DMs about this too.
Okay. So logistics meaning like what comes next?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I immediately give them an email and it says, thank you for buying the offer. You're going to get all of the details in due course. And then I send them 10 questions. So it's whether I know them or not, I'll send them 10 questions so I can really then feel into what would be a blow their mind, expansive experience for them. And then I get into creativity. So we have done them all over the world. One of my favorite ever up in the clouds offers was we went to Spain and it was a full moon and we rode horses on the beach under the full moon. And then the next day we had a cabana and we literally created her next 12 months in bikinis, in the cabana, you know, eating great food and under the Spanish sun. And it was just extraordinary. But what I find about why, you know, the experience, you know, riding horses on the beach is beautiful, but why an up in the clouds offer is so pivotal and transformational in someone's life is because who they become the moment they say yes. Mm-hmm. They don't know what they're saying yes to. They're literally putting their trust in my hands. And that means by the time they come to me for the in-person session, they're already a different version of themselves. One who is ready to create from that level of courage that they had to buy it.
I think you do a lot with experiences, like in-person things. And I think especially for right now, this is like one of the best, most important things you can do because you're in relationship
Yes.
with that person.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the experiences, in-person things that you do, that you create, and why you and your clients love them so much?
Well, my clients love them because of where they started, like why I do in-person experiences. And I always share with my clients, I used to, when I lived in Scotland in a place called Dundee, I had a vision board on my wall. And my daughter, before her friends would come around, she's like, Mom, please take that vision board off the wall. I don't want anybody to see it.
Oh my God.
And on my vision board was one of my favorite hotels in London called the Corinthia Hotel. And so I'm like, how can I spend? I was a single mom with, 2 kids, and I'd quit my job in teaching. I didn't have any kind of safety net. So, that's a whole other story. And so going to this hotel, which is like 2000 a night, was just a vision board thing. And I get into creativity and I'm like, how can I make that my life? How can I really start, visiting this place? And so what I did was I created a 4-hour in-person session where we would meet at Corinthia Hotel and just have coffee. And so the offer was low. It was like a couple of £100 at the time, because it would pay for my train ticket, not even a flight. It's like an 8-hour train ride, a train ticket. It would pay for coffee, and it would allow me to be in this place. So somebody bought the offer. I met them in London. I'm in my place. Like I can feel like every fiber of my body expanding just because I put myself in the environment. So then I'm like, okay, let me do another client experience. But this time we're going to go to Corinthia and we're going to use the spa, right? And the spa is full of celebrities. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to price this at like 1,500 or something. And then somebody bought it. And then I'm like, okay, how much would it cost to stay overnight? So I priced it a little bit higher and somebody bought it. But every time I was in Corinthia Hotel, I'm creating myself. Jess is here with her clients. Oh, Jess is here. Jess is here. Great to see you. All of the things. And then within 2 years, my husband and I are like best friends with the hotel. We now go to the one in New York as well. We hosted our whole book launch in the event space out there. And, so that's why my clients love immersions, because they saw my own expansion through putting myself in environments that were on my vision board. And that's what they do when they come with me. I really create an experience that I know is aligned with their future vision, and that they're going to be out of their comfort zone. So they're expanding in the moment. So, I've had clients fly into New York. We've done Morocco, we've done London, we've done Spain, we've done Paris on numerous occasions, and they're really curated for the client. So that includes where we eat, the experiences that we have. Some people like a bougie hotel and Michelin dining. Some clients like to be completely natural and hike up a mountain. And one time, somebody invested in an immersion experience with me, and I sent them on a solo immersion because I knew that was their growth.
Yeah.
So they're all completely different.
Probably my favorite part of that story is that you were growing alongside of your clients, and it was doing as much for you as it was for them.
Yes.
Which is just like, that's amazing. And I think like, how can people listening also bring that into their life, where you're creating, like, that's what I hear from you over and over, is like you're edging that like comfort discomfort zone for your growth. But it's also, every time you do that, you're having this huge effect on other people too.
Yes. And what I realized was the only way that we can show people what we're doing and really demonstrate who and what it takes is to get comfortable in front of the camera. It's to get comfortable doing podcasts. It's to get comfortable sharing our experience in whatever way that is, for for them. And I love nowadays that there's so many outlets. You can write on Substack, or you can do pictures on Instagram, you can podcast. And for the 5-figure months membership, we created a documentary, because it's very easy to show the highlight reel of our successes. And what's so important is showing people that we go through challenges and how we lead ourselves through those challenges, because that's the part that really leads to the results that we're sharing and the results that they want. It's not all shiny, happy all of the time.
Yeah. And now, is that you sharing like through the documentary, is that easier for you now to share? Is that still like a little uncomfortable? Where does that fall?
It's getting easier. We filmed and played with, content and short videos for about 12 months before I finally listened to my videographer, Yara, who said, Jess, she's here. We need to do more with this. You need to show your life. And I said, but it might be a little bit boring for some people. Yeah. And I don't often show my family.
Yeah.
They don't always want to be in front of the camera. I've never showed the inside of my home until now. But what I've realized, the more successful we get, I've realized that my job is way more than teaching people how to make money. My job is, I actually have a big fat responsibility to hand other women and humans a permission slip to, you can do it this way. It doesn't have to be so hard. It's not all strategy, but this is what it really takes. Yeah. And if you want it, this is who you need to be to go and get it. So,
I mean, that's a perfect place to just wrap up, because that's so good. And it's so interesting that we have these stories, though. I just have to say this, of like, but it's so boring. Because this is something I think we're so similar in so many ways, which is why we have connected and become friends. Isn't it so interesting? Yet this boring is like what we have dreamed of.
Right.
Yet we're not afraid, but like because we do it with resistance, I think, for growth. But we still have this perception when it's like, these are the lives that people are dreaming of.
Yes. And that's where it has to be bigger than us, you know, and that's what I've really connected to pretty recently, is this is bigger than me. And if I really want to impact people in the way that I want to impact people, I have to share myself more. And I really do believe that I've been prepared to show up in front of a camera, to show up in these conversations, to connect with like-minded people, to have these conversations, because without them, in this time when there's so much noise, people need a space that's real and raw and honest and safe to be them, you know? So, yeah.
So good. Thank you so much for being here. I'm blown away by this conversation. You even broke my brain, and I know like you're going to be so impactful for the listener. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for doing what you do for your listeners. It's a really big deal, and you're giving them that permission slip to go for their dreams. So thank you.